Yeah, Aramis. Do you want to come with me or do you want to just stay here? What do you want to do, pal? Thanks. Aramis. Funny, the moment Jay's around, he's just like, I'll just hang out with Jay, let it go. Actually, that might be perfect. Just keep that one. Okay, hi everybody. I think this is everybody or close enough? Yeah. Okay. So obviously you know what we're here to do or you wouldn't be here. But effectively what we're going to do is we're going to run through not just what to do when you're bringing your dog to the vet, but how to prepare your dog so that it's much easier in the future. So there's going to be some things that seem like a lot of work. I don't want you guys to get worried about that when I'm sharing. Just be aware that it's not as hard as you think, okay? What you really just need to do is understand the concept. Once you've got the concept down, everything else is much easier. It's just about time and consistency, okay? Aramis is here to help me out with the handling side of things. He was a little bit sick on the car journey over here, but I'm sure he'll be absolutely fine. So, just to introduce myself, my name is Fraser. I'm the behavioural specialist and trainer at Noble Canine. And this is Jay, who's a behavioural trainer with Noble Canine as well, and my tech guy. I don't think he knows anything about tech, but he's got long hair, so I assume that he must be good. So, Aramis is my beautiful assistant today. So we'll just crack on, shall we? But before we go on, does anybody have any questions or anything about the start? If not, just hold them until we've actually got going. Okay. So what we're going to cover today is, first of all, understanding what stress is, because you wouldn't be here if vet visits with your dog was easy. You know, like people that just swan in with their pedigree retriever that's been bred just to be perfectly calm even if bombs are going off. They don't really think about this stuff. But we do, because if we've had dogs or have dogs that do get stressed about vet visits and things, we need to think about this. And if you don't understand how stress works in not just dogs, but in ourselves, it makes this a lot more challenging. Okay? Then understanding your dog. The number of people that I talk to about, you've got to understand your dog, you've got to build a better bond with your dog, and instantly get offended. And like, no, I know my dog better than anybody else. I've got the best bond. I'm not saying you don't. I'm just saying that there's always a way that you can understand things better, and there's always a way that you can help your dog more. It's the same as your own children or your own spouse. You might say, oh yeah, I'm their everything, but you don't know absolutely everything, and you can always do better. I'm not going to point out how heavily you were shaking your head there. I'll just smooth on past that one, shall I? Then we've got shaping not just vet visits, but other things in life in general. And that'll make more sense in a bit, but effectively, a great example of this, not one that was deliberate, but Aramis gets motion sickness. You do, mate, I'm sorry. I used to think you got nervous in the car, but no, it's just motion sickness. So on the way here today, he threw up in the car. Now that's a real shame, but it also means that his residual stress level is already high. So if we were going to try and do something a little bit more invasive with him today, he's already going to have a higher stress level. And then you've got things like meeting other dogs in the vets. So when Aramis met Leo. So he's just had surgery, he's got the cone on, sniffing was okay, but jamming the cone into Aramis's side was obviously not the most fun thing for him. So both of these guys have now got a little bit more stress. Put a pin in that one, I'll come back to that. Then we're going to look at handling and safety. Now, when I get to this stage, you're going to see the list and you're going to think, oh, that's a lot of stuff. Don't worry, because these things flow into each other. If you've got to improve one area, you can improve them all, right? Additional appropriate socialization, as well as some additional training and things like that, which will help. Everybody always says, oh no, but I don't need my dog to be trained, I just need them to be calm. Or I don't need my dog to be calm, I just need them to be trained. They're separate things, but they both go together. And a lot of the time, we give ourselves excuses because it's not the easiest thing in the world to train your dogs. And what you must do and what you must be for your dogs. Very, very simplistic, but also one of the most important factors. Okay, so understanding our dogs. This is the behavioral structure of a dog. This is the trigger point. This is the one that you see people arguing about online over and over and over. What's more impactful? Is it nature or is it nurture? So effectively, genetics has a massive part in all of us as animals. Okay, so even just as simple as, would you agree that you and I are the same animal? Don't hesitate, please. I'm not actually a shaved monkey.
We are.
You've got a more impressive beard, but that's fine. But we are the same animal. So why do you have dark hair, dark eyes? Why are you got more mellow skin? Why are our body compositions different? It's all genetics. And that basically boils down to where our ancestors evolved. So when you see people saying things like, oh, breed in the dogs don't matter, well, it does. It even matters in us. And that's not something to say that's racist, because people get very, very upset when you start talking about that. Yeah, we've got differences. We've got strengths and weaknesses that others don't. So for example, in the Olympics, did you notice that every single ping pong player, regardless of country, was Oriental? Well, because fast twitch muscle speed is a genetic advantage that people of Oriental descent have. You look at the strongest man in the world competition. They're all Northern European. They're not Southern European. You don't get the Spanish guys. They're all Northern European because to survive in that climate, they had to be a certain body composition. All the Olympic sprinters. You see where I'm going with this? It's not a racist thing, it's a genetics thing, and dogs are the same. So we've got to understand, what breed is your dog? What has your dog been genetically shaped to do? If you have a border collie, for a start, does anybody here have a border collie? Okay, good. So when I say this, I'm not actually saying anything that might offend anybody directly. Border collies are amazing, amazing breeds, but they are bred for the farm. So when I was growing up, I grew up in farms in Scotland, and the border collies effectively, the border collies would work 18 hours a day. That's the amount of energy that those guys have. So when you're keeping a border collie in an apartment or even in a house, you've got to be burning off that energy, or you are going to get some behavioral problems. So now let's cut closer to home. How many people here have Singapore Specials? Yeah. Now, we seem to think, oh, Singapore Specials, they're not really a breed, they're all mongrels, so you don't see any genetic similarities. Well, yes and no, they are very genetically different. For example, this is my 4 Singapore Specials. Okay, so yes, one of them is Homo sapien, but you know, mixed breed from Singapore, still a Singapore Special. So these are all Singapore Specials, but you can see they all look different. Well, he probably has some in him, you know, so we've got to remember where Singapore Specials come from. The street, the jungle, the industrial zones, the construction sites. So we've got to understand, what does that do to their behavioral makeup? So let's take a look at, well, the anxiety is a big part, yes, we'll touch on that. Basically things like, is it useful for them to be fully optimistic when they're in the jungle? Oh, look, a spitting cobra. Maybe that will share its food with me. No. So over generations, the dogs that were more optimistic, well, they didn't have puppies. So those genetic elements did not get passed on. The ones that were more skittish did. So the thing is that the more generations that live on the streets and in the jungle, you're going to start seeing Singapore specialists becoming more and more adapted to living in that environment. Another curveball that we chuck in is that that environment is also changing because of urbanization. Jungles are getting taken over, the different even policies on construction sites and things like that. It used to be that the dogs could run around the construction site and the workers would feed them. Now they're told to get rid of them immediately. So all of these things are going to start to impact genetics. And it doesn't seem like it because these things have got nothing to do with genetics, but the dogs that survive are the ones that are behaviorally able to in those environments. Okay, so that's a big one, just Singapore specialists. Then you've got things like Labradors. They are bred to retrieve and keep people happy. That's literally what they are designed to do. You've got a Beagle, and you say, oh, they bark too much. Maybe don't get a Beagle if you're not wanting the dog to bark a lot. So we've got to be aware about what our dogs do. Jack Russells. So I love Jack Russells. I had Jack Russell growing up. This little girl of a Jack Russell used to run into the house and just look at you earnestly. Follow me, follow me, follow me. All right, okay? So you'd follow the Jack Russell and you get led into the barn where this Jack Russell had lined up all of the rats that she killed. Because that's what Jack Russells do. So they've got high prey drive, high energy. Like people get upset when Jack Russells growl and things like that. That's perfectly normal for them. You know, they're just telling you they're not happy about something. You don't get upset about dogs communicating. So we're going to know the genetics. Learned behavior. So this is nature and this is nurture. Learned behavior comes in both good and bad. So if I'm on the road, I'm driving along the PIE and I indicate, and a BMW that's in the outside lane accelerates and cuts me off, automatically, the next time I'm on the road and I see somebody in a BMW, I'm going to be like, oh, they're not going to be nice to me. They're going to cut me off. That's learned behavior, you know? So that's the kind of thing that happened to us and to dogs as well. So if a dog has a bad experience in the vets, that's going to be a tough one to overcome. Good example of this is Aramis again. You would start to realize the reasons I brought him and not one of the other two. If I brought Athos, it would have been a bit boring for this talk. If you just sat there and been like, what am I doing here? But Aramis, he's had a lot of vet attention in his life. He's got liver issues, he's got allergies, he's, you know, he's not as healthy as he could be. But we were at a vet, not this vet, before I say, but we were at a vet who wanted to do a scan to get a good look at his liver and kidneys. And they just forced him over and pinned him down with a towel. Industry practice. Yep, that's what they do. But I'll try not to linger on this one, but that's exactly the same as saying, okay, we're going to bring you into the hospital, but just so you know, we're only going to use knowledge and science from 35 years ago. Is that okay? You guys okay with that? No new science. We're not going to follow it. But that's what dog trainers do. That's what handlers do all over the world. You see people saying, oh no, we still use choke chains. We still use choking and beating and zap collars. That's science from 20, 30, 40 years ago. It's like, we've moved on, guys. Come on, keep up. I used to do that. I've got no shame in telling you. First time I was a trainer when I was in university, I used to train on dogs and work with security dogs. And yeah, it was choke chains, you know? And some of the techniques were horrible. And then it wasn't until I got Athos, the black dog you saw there, that I had to change all of that. Because when you've got a dog that's actually behaviorally challenging, those methods don't work. Because for fear and pain to work in training, you've got to be more scary and create more pain than the potential trigger that's making them behave. Doesn't it? And when you realize that's actually what it is, of course it's a terrible idea. So if you've got an Irish wolfhound bearing down on your dog wanting to fight, to get your dog to do what you want them to do, you've got to be scarier than that Irish wolfhound. Nobody wants that. Okay? Or a dog that's terrifying. So they're the ones that will get you. So that's learned behavior. It's basically good things, bad things. Did you see someone you fancied? Yeah. I'll tell you a wee story about Aramis living up to his name of being a horn dog. So learned behavior, good things, bad things. We learn from them. If we enforce the good things, we can shape their behavior through that. It's really just that simple. Social behavior. Now this one's interesting because when I was talking about genetics, you heard me talking about the social behavior of humans and other dogs and things like that. So the social behavior directly links to genetics. Learned behavior directly links to social behavior. So this is what I love when people try and argue about nature versus nurture. It's not as simple as that because it's all connected. Basically, if you grew up in a house where, let's break the stereotypical norm and say your mother's very violent, although I've met some mothers that are quite violent. But if you grow up in the household with a mother that's very violent, more likely than not, you're going to become quite violent. If you grow up in a household with people that are very calm, you're more likely to be calm. Our dogs are the same. I genuinely once caught a domestic abuse situation. They hired me to train their dog, went through all the behavioral potentials, realized the reason this dog is behaving like this is the dog is trying to protect the wife from the abusive husband. And then I called the cops because I'm not dealing with that. But this is very important to understand, is it's not as simple as nature versus nurture. Your household is important. If you have screaming kids or a screaming daughter, like me, then you've got to be aware of that. You've got to make sure that your dogs have got abilities to escape from that madness. And likewise, you've got to make sure that the little humans have got ability to escape from the dogs when they get overwhelmed. Because little humans get overwhelmed all the time. Okay? So this is the understanding of behavioral structure. Does that make sense to everybody? Yeah? Any questions on that before I move on? I like to keep this quite loose. It's not like a classroom. You don't need to wait till the end. If you've got a question, just let me know. Okay, stress buildup. I'm sure many of you here will have heard of trigger stacking. So trigger stacking is quite a common thing in the dog training world. They talk about your dog gets triggered by another dog, and then triggered by a cat, and then triggered by a car, and then triggered by this. And that's all very true. But they're all negative stressors. But we also have positive stressors. When you get overexcited, when you get aroused, when you get overwhelmed with joy, all of these things are stress. When you go to the gym and you think, oh yeah, I feel a lot less stressed now that I've trained. Yes, mentally you might feel calmer in the moment, but that stress that you put on your physical body still creates cortisol and other stress hormones that build up. And this is what we're talking about here. So we've got this bucket. This is going to represent the endocrine system. Now, at the moment, think about yourself, because it's much easier to relate to yourself. Okay? So we've got the relaxed zone, the coping well zone, or the performance zone. We've got the anxious zone, and we've got overwhelm. When you're in overwhelm, that's when you start going into fear trigger response, which is freeze, flight, and fight, which I will look at in just a second. Now, you wake up in the morning. You've been in this relaxed zone all night. Okay? Then you have a cup of coffee. What does coffee have in it? Caffeine. Bang. Drugs also impact your stress hormone levels. Yes, caffeine is a drug. So you've got that in there now. Then you go to have a shower and your partner's used up all the hot water. Again. Stress. Then after the shower, you get ready and you check your phone, you go onto Facebook, and lo and behold, your sister's pregnant. Wow, great news. You're both excited that your sister's pregnant and slightly miffed that she just didn't tell you before she posted it on Facebook. So now you've got bang, bang. So before you've even left the house, you're already here. Now you go to work, you miss the bus. So you've got to get a taxi to the office. You're annoyed about missing the bus. You're annoyed about having to spend money on the taxi. So now you're here. You get into the office, you start up your computer. You're reading through all your emails, and you know that that's just going to stress you out anyway, because you're trying to sort out your day. You're just saying, what do I need to do? What do I need to troubleshoot? What fires am I needing to put out? So now you're here, and one of your colleagues comes through. Hey, Are you ready for that meeting? It starts in 2 minutes. Just give me a bloody second, leave me alone. Whoa, I was only asking. Because that's pushed you over the edge, because you only had this much left before you started to get anxious. Yeah? Our dogs are the exact same. You wake up in the morning. Am I boring you, mate? Sorry. They wake up in the morning, you come out of the bedroom, dog's really excited. Great, bang, stress. Thunderstorm, bang, stress. Depending on the dog, that might spike up a lot more. Then you've got the walk. Maybe your dog loves a walk. Cool, bang. Maybe your dog's scared of the walk. Same thing. You're out there, sniff, 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 sniff. Okay, let's give it where it's due. Sniffing will reduce their stress a bit. Then you run into a garbage truck. Bang. And now you've got your vet appointment. Does that seem like a good point to go to the vet? But how many times have you not thought about that? Taking your dog for a nice long walk because you want to relax your dog before the vet. Or you know that your dog is going to the vet tomorrow, so you decide to treat him to taking him to the beach the day before. But to relax from this point to around the midpoint of the coping well takes 48 hours. If there's no other stressors pumping it up. For a human being, it's about 24 hours. So I'm not going to reference everything with academia, but just so you know, that study there was done in London in 2013 after Guy Fawkes Night, which is where they have the big bonfires and all the fireworks and all of that. So there's 200 dogs. You'd imagine there'd be a lot more than that in London that would get overly stressed. And then they did blood tests periodically to see how long it took for the stress hormone to come back down to a normal level. So that's not guesswork. In fact, everything I'm doing here is not guesswork. It's all based on behavioral science. I've had enough arguments online with other trainers to realize they base everything on science, they can't really argue. It's much easier. Okay, understanding conflict. So, I know it's small because it's just a small point. All animals, including ourselves, will react if our survival is threatened, if our resources or our valuables are threatened. So if I tried to steal that bag right now, you wouldn't be very happy. You know, if I tried to steal Jay's beer, I'd probably end up in the ground. So that's, for humans, you're talking money, cars, you know, all the stuff that we value. But realistically, you're talking about food, water, and things like toys and things like that. The dogs get attention. It's a big one. But the attention actually is more about sex. Not what you're thinking, keep your mind out of the gutter. It's about keeping you, it's your husband, everyone, you're laughing at me. So when we're talking about sex, we're not talking about the action, although the action does come into it, which is why the Discovery Channel and Animal Planet love recording during that time of year, because it's more eventful. But it gives you a very poor understanding of why animals become aggressive, because they only become aggressive because of one of these three things. But also it's about your partner. It's about your children. It's about your family, your extended family, your friends. You can even argue that it extends to patriotism of your country. So it's all about protecting the continuation of your genetic code and those that you deem to be worthy. Okay? So with that in mind, this is why your dogs will protect your children. This is why your dogs will protect you, even to the detriment of themselves sometimes. And most human beings will do the same. Not all, but most will. So when we hit these will spike that stress level in the bucket all the way up. And then you're going to freeze, flight, and fight. Now, everybody knows flight and fight. A lot of people don't really understand freeze. Freeze is more a prey animal thing. You see the deer stuck in the headlight and they just freeze. That's a freeze response. All animals have that. We see it less in dogs like Singapore Specials and more in pedigree dogs. The reason for that is old-fashioned training methods used this because if the dog was in freeze, they would not try to run away or bite. So they got the dog into that fear response and the dog would have to do what they want. It's a very dangerous way of actually doing training because then you get what you call emotional shutdown, which can, yes, that's easier to handle a dog when they're in emotional shutdown, but it's not good for the dog. It also means you're closer to flight and fight. which is not really something you want to be playing with. You've also got to remember, we invite predators into our house. Don't get it twisted. Dogs are predators. And a lot of people don't think about that. Cats as well. Cats can be vicious. They really can be. I love cats, but they're brutal. So we've got to remember all of this. But when we bring our dogs into the vets, or when we bring our dogs on a walk, if they're on a leash, can they freeze and hide? No, they're on a leash. Can they run away? No, they're on a leash. They might try, but they can't get away. So it means fight becomes a very quick option. This is leash reactivity, barrier reactivity. You may have seen the video on YouTube where the dogs have got a gate between them and they're going crazy at each other, and the minute the gate disappears, they're fine. That's what's happening. So the moment that gate disappears, their options open up. They've got more choices. Do you know what? Don't really want to fight. It's like teenage boys. When their friends are pulling them back, it's okay. You here for the workshop? Yeah, that's okay. Do we have our seats or just have a look? So we just take that seat and then see if we can squeeze one in beside. Let's get away, buddy. Two more. Sorry. Thank you. Good boy. Settle down. Okay, so we're talking about stress, we're talking about the science behind it, but then you've got to talk about the practicalities of it. If the dog cannot freeze or flight, they will go into fight. If you are trying to pin a dog down to draw blood, or do a scan, or check their ears, or their eyes, or their teeth, they cannot run away, they cannot hide. You're literally setting yourself up for failure, and more importantly, setting your dog up for failure. So this is why we want to use vets like this one, who is certified to be fear-free. Now, before I say this, these guys are very good, but having a certification that says that you are qualified or fear-free and stuff like that doesn't necessarily mean they're good. You know? How many people have you met in your careers, like, oh, I've got a master's degree and blah, 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 but they're about as much use as an inflatable dartboard when it comes to actual work. You know? So we've got to be aware of this as well. We'll talk about that in a bit. So, knowing your dog, this is where we talk about your particular dog. But the reason we went through a little bit of that more dry sciencey stuff is because this will give you a better ability to look at your dog in a different way. So knowing health issues. These are all things that you need to know about your dog and communicate to the vet before you turn up. Okay? So you don't just turn up and say, oh, by the way, my dog likes to bite. You know, that's not really what you want to be doing. So knowing health issues, both previous and current. So even if your dog had a broken leg 5 years ago, you still tell the vet, because that's something that could be a sensitive point. Rough stress levels. Now, knowing how that bucket goes, and for you guys that just turned up, don't worry, we're streaming this onto Facebook and the video will be recorded, so you can go back and watch it if you like as well. You can watch it as well. The rough stress levels, so you look at that bucket, how's the last 48 hours of your dog life been? Are they in pain? Because that's going to put the stress levels up. Are they itchy? That'll put the stress levels up. Take a good idea of what sort of level your dog's going to be at, so you can then share that with the vet and take action on it as well, because you need to be aware. Previous difficulties at the vets. Did somebody in the car park lose their patience and peep the horn for really loud and you have a very nervous dog and now they've related that to the vet? That's a genuine thing. It just so happened that something like that happened. But you've got to understand that sometimes, like Aramis, if somebody's pinned him down onto his back and forced a scan onto him, I will tell you from experience, shaping that out is very, very difficult, to the point where I decided I'm not going to force him to do that. I want to make sure that he's okay. It's more important that he is having a happy life than whether or not he can roll onto his back to be scanned. You can always do a scan another way. Okay, so knowing what's happened at the vet before. Handling challenges. Does your dog not like their paws to be handled? Does your dog not like you putting your finger in their ears? All of these things you need to be aware and share with the clinic. Novelty resilience. Now, I'll not do this test because we've got you at the back, but if it was just Aramis is funny when you do this. He doesn't react very badly to novelty. Whereas my youngest dog, the other golden dog that was in the picture, he gets super excited. So if a box falls over, whereas most Singapore Specials will run away, Aramis is like, box, it's a game. And it's a box, calm down, you know. And then Athos, the big black one, he'll be like, nope, I'm out. And he just leaves. So in our household, we've got 3 very different responses and a 4th little human that creates all this novelty. So it's good to know what the novelty resilience is like. Does your dog get freaked out by a car backfiring? Do they get freaked out by somebody dropping something? Because you are a vet, and understand that nobody's perfect. You know, the vets are not perfect. The vets are like GPs, remember, as well. You can't expect your vet to know all the behavioral stuff that I'm even talking about here, let alone all the other stuff that it would be beneficial. Your vet is a GP. You don't go to a GP and ask for psychological advice. You know, so you've got to go to a behavioral specialist if you've got behavioral problems. You come to the vet if you've got a health problem, and hopefully you don't have this experience. But if it's something that's more specialised, the vet will refer you to somebody more specialised for that. The same as they would do with taking care of our own health as well. Known triggers. Is your dog reactive? If so, let your vet know before you turn up, because they'll know who else is booked in. So you're not wanting your Chihuahua, who's incredibly dog reactive, to turn up just before the fully grown Doberman, who's also dog reactive. You know, the clinic can think about these things for you as well. Okay, what you must do for your dog. Super simple. Anybody that's done any leadership corporate training will be like, hey, that looks familiar, because I stole it from corporate. Before I had Athos, I was in oil and gas, and then I ended up having to go back to uni to help him. So that's why I steal a lot of things from engineering and corporate and things like that. No shame in it. Calm. You must be calm. You are your dog's leader. When you're at work, if your boss or your team leader loses their temper, you immediately lose respect for them. They're no longer a leader. They might be a boss. They might be an alpha, but that's not real. The term alpha, as far as public population knows, is not true. Alpha is a true term when it comes to neurological behavior, but it's more about being a leader than being tough. A true leader never needs to show aggression to their team. They never need to show temper. They just are the leader. As Tywin Lannister said in Game of Thrones, if you have to demand yourself king, you are no true king. Okay? I wish I knew who actually did that quote, but I didn't know it was Tywin Lannister. Pretty badass. So, you're going to be calm when you're dealing with your dog. Some of you might notice at the beginning there, when there was a little bit of a growl there between the 2 dogs there, neither of us reacted poorly. Because when people go, no, stop, you're basically just feeding more anxiety into an already potentially dangerous situation. You've got to be calm and make sure that your dog knows it's okay. You're just having a conversation. You had a disagreement. It's okay. We all have disagreements. Same thing, like, I don't like every human being I meet. I don't see why people would expect their dogs to like every single dog they meet as well. Calm to the staff. No, I am not getting told to say this by the vets. But if you let yourself get wound up because the staff are doing something that you deem to be rough, keep cool. Don't be that guy. Don't be that one ranting and raving. You know, same goes for when you're flying. Don't get annoyed at the air hostesses. They're not doing anything wrong. You know, but it's also very important for your dog and also for yourself. If you let yourself get worked up, that's going to directly feed into your dog's experience. We use these animals to sniff out cancer, to sniff out drugs. They even use them to detect COVID. If you think they can't smell the hormone levels in your body when you're stressed, you're bonkers. Of course they can. You know, and they react to that. Clear. I know this is hilarious coming from somebody with a voice like mine, but we have got to be clear with everything we say to our dog. So that's why you probably see me using a lot of hand signals with Aramis. It's not just because I've had an operation and my voice is like this. It's because dogs don't speak English. My wife's voice is very different from my voice. Our accents are very different. If somebody else is looking after my dogs, they'll speak differently as well. Hand signals are very, very useful because they can be consistent as long as everybody knows them. Okay, that's part of clarity. Communication to the clinic. If you've got, especially with everything we just spoke about, what you want to be telling the clinic before you turn up, if you've got to tell the clinic about previous health issues, previous behavioural problems, all of these things, don't mumble it down the phone. I mean, and I'm sure nobody ever does that at this clinic, but you've all been on the phone with somebody and like, They're not listening fully. So if you're not very clear, you're definitely not going to catch it. Confident. Be a leader. Help yourself out by doing this as well. If your house was on fire and the fireman turned up and the fireman wasn't calm, I was like, oh my God, there's a fire. And you're like, yeah, that's kind of what you're meant to be here for. He's like, yeah, but it's hot. Do you have any idea how hot it is in there? And you're like, no, but you should probably know. You know, confident. If the fireman's like, oh, dude, you're going to lose all of your stuff, everything. Everyone's going to burn up in that fire. Your whole life's ruined. Can you imagine? How many people do that to their dogs? They're out on a walk, to the dog, the dog's having a meltdown because of whatever it is they're reacting to, and you're going, shut up, stop it, bad dog, blah, 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 blah. The dog's there going, you are that crazy fireman telling me your life is ruined. Is that a leader that you want to be around? No. You want to be confident. Don't worry, sir. Don't worry, ma'am. There is a fire. You keep clear. Go beside the paramedics. They'll take care of you. We'll deal with this. We'll save as much of your stuff as possible. Then you're like, hey, these guys know what they're talking about. You know, you're doing the same with your dog. And the last one, consistent. If one day you are calm and the next day you are crazy, if one day you're saying sit and the next day you're saying sit down, and the next day you're saying plant your butt, you know, like the dog doesn't understand all of this English. So that's when people say, I had a client, and I'm not mentioning names obviously, but I had a client just, Saturday, on Wednesday. Fraser, how come the dog does everything that we're asking when you're here, but when we're at home, we're at their home, but when you're not here, the dog doesn't do anything? Okay, well, show me what you do. Completely different language. They were using a different language when I was there versus when I wasn't. I was like, hey, it's cool. Use your mother tongue. There's nothing wrong with that at all. But use it when I'm here too. Oh, but you don't understand. Like, it doesn't matter. I'm Scottish. I barely understand English. You know? So consistency is incredibly important. Hand signals, language, even your inflection, quite important. And you'll notice this, that when I'm saying to Aramis to do different things in a bit, I'm not lingering on things. I'm not like being cutesy. I'm not being harsh. I'm just being matter of fact. Okay? And that's important for your dogs as well, because if something happens in a real life situation where you start to panic and all of your commands have been done cutesy, you're not going to be able to say it cutesy. So your dog's not going to understand. Okay, useful training commands or cues. I prefer to call them cues. A command is demanding that you do something. Do this. It's kind of got it's got an air of an or else at the end of it. So when somebody gives you a command, you'll be like, yeah, I'll do it. Yeah. But if somebody gives you a cue, it's like a rugby game. You call out a cue, you call out a call. Everybody knows what to do. Nobody even questions it. You do it because you've drilled it so many times, it's just second nature. And that's what we really want to be getting to. So 3 areas that are useful in vets. There's a lot more. I actually have something I call the toolbox 10. It says 10 commands. If you have these 10 commands, you can basically get away with doing almost anything. So you try to keep it simple. There's no point in teaching your dog 50 different commands when 10's enough, as long as you know how to use them. For now, control. First one is directional cues. Now you saw me using a directional cue earlier on with Aramis. Actually, you saw me doing it a lot because the space was quite small. So when I pointed and he started to move, pointing, that's a directional cue. How you teach that is really, really simple. Hold a treat between your fingers, make a 2-finger point. You sound asleep. Aramis, it's your moment. It's your moment, my boy. Come here. So you show them. This is very, very like foundational level. And you literally just do this. Go. So you throw the treat in a direction, you point, and you say, go. Now, that means he's going to go in the direction that you point. And eventually, you're going to be able to do things like just tell him to go round, and he'll know exactly where he's supposed to go. Okay? So that works. It's really good when you've got aircon service and guys in as well, because you can just send the dog into different directions. Good lad. Okay? So directional cues are super simple and very important. Yes, I just threw it. You do, every time you do anything, 3 Ds: distractions, distance, and duration. If you try something, so if you tried that one straight away and you threw the treat to the other side of your living room and your dog looked at you like, what are you doing? Distance, you've gone that too far right now. Eventually, yes, you'll be able to do that, but you've got to remember the distance is too far. In the same way, if you're teaching your dog to do a stay, actually, you're not the best dog to do this because you will just stay, but if you're doing a stay and you just do a stay and you take a few steps back and nothing happens, and you take another step back and nothing happens, and then you take another step back and they come to you, you've gone too far for that level. So you stay within the range that your dog is able to do and slowly increase it. Okay? Think about it as like doing a Sudoku puzzle. If you went to the back of the book to do a Sudoku puzzle, you wouldn't enjoy it and you wouldn't continue. If you make the training too difficult for them in the early stages, they're not going to want to continue. It's really very simple. Focus. Touch is one of my favorite ones. It's a bit of a multi-tool when it comes to training. And it just looks like this, if you're done smelling feet. Aramis. Makes sense. Aramis, touch. Good. So he just touched my hand. Seems like nothing. Yeah, it's pretty simple. What if leave it doesn't work? Well, if they're engrossed in something else and you need them to get away from something, Aramis, touch. Good. Because you're touching, there's a physical touch. It's like a high five. Even if you're walking down the street, you've got no idea who that person is. If they walk past and say high five, yeah, it's in the bag. Yeah, if you do a high five, you're going to likely do a high five because it's a contact thing. Touch works the same way. The other one for focus is actually middle that you just saw. So Aramis, supposed to be doing focus, my boy. Okay, Aramis, middle. Demo dog, thank you. Good boy. Okay, so this is really useful for the vets, also really useful for pubs. So if you take your dogs to a bar or a cafe and things like that, you don't know the other dogs, you don't know the other dogs' owners. Don't trust people you don't know. Don't open the door for strangers, okay? So you've got to make sure, good boy, you've got to make sure that you've got a couple of tools in your arsenal that you can keep your dog safe. Touch and middle are very good at keeping the focus on you. He might be looking around, but he knows that he's still between my legs, he feels safe, okay? So that's the 2 focus ones. Middle also comes in very handy for handling in a little bit. Settle. Cam on cue, slow feed, place, or boundary. Now, cam on cue is quite an easy one to teach. Again, Aramis is going to be, you'll not see exactly how it's taught because Aramis will probably just settle quite quickly. But effectively, you trying to get Jay for more treats. I've got some here. So with cam on cue, you show them you have a treat in your hand. I'm sure that camera's not catching you now. And I didn't forget the cable, it's in the bag. Just keep looking. Goes like that. They will try to get your hand to open to get the treat. You see that he just focused on my face there. That's because he knows this. But effectively, you wait until they do this. Some dogs it takes half an hour, some dogs it takes 2 minutes. But you do this, they look at you, focus, good. And that's it. You start off, it's a nightmare. They'll be digging your hand, they'll be trying to mouth it open, they'll be pawing at it. But I promise you, if you do enough repetitions of this, they will figure it out. I once did this with an ex-military dog. So a lot of the time what happens, if the dog knows a lot of tricks, they will run through all of the tricks that they know before they figure out what you're actually wanting. And this Labrador that had worked as a sniffer dog must have gone through about 30 different cute tricks before it figured out, oh, you actually just want me to sit and do nothing. You want me just to look at you. So you've got to remember that even if your dog's a very clever, very well-trained dog, If it's something new, you've got to start at the bottom as well. Okay, slow feed. Slow feed is very good for very high energy dogs. I don't go into it too deep at the moment because there's quite a lot to do with reward and punishment, but the long and short of reward and punishment is if you're smart and you follow actual cognitive science, you will use positive reward, adding something good to a situation when your dog does something that you deem to be good. You will only use for punishment negative punishment. Now, this one always throws people off. Negative punishment means removing something good. Wives, you will be very good at this. When we as husbands do something wrong, we get the silence treatment. That is negative punishment. We are getting attention is being removed. That is negative punishment. And that in itself tells you that that's the most effective punishment. The problem with positive, I'll tell you right now, when I was growing up, didn't work on me. When I used to get smacked as a kid, I could not tell you the reason I got smacked. All I knew was don't get caught. Is that educational? No. It didn't help that I was working on farms, so you got skinned as a kid, so it didn't really work. But what did work was removal. Oh, you've been bad. Looks like you're not allowed to go out to the fields. Oh, okay, I'll behave myself for next time for sure. Positive punishment doesn't work for teaching lessons. Don't get me wrong, if you're talking strictly from an effectiveness point, well, stop the behavior. But you're also damaging your relationship with the person or dog. You're also damaging your training and your ability to get the dog, I'm not going to use person for an example in that one, in other areas as well. In fact, the relationship with your dog is very much like the relationship with your partner. You've got to think of it like a bank account. And find it, yeah. We're recording on Facebook. That was not me that swore. Despite being Scottish, I was not the one that swore. Just want to put that out there. So, yeah, relationship bank account. If your bank account, the moment you're into negative, you get the bank calling up and giving you a hard time. You want that bank account to have a lot in it, so that even if you have to do something which is going to cost a lot, you've still got enough in there that everything's good. If you're constantly paying into the relationship, buying flowers, taking him out for dinner, because it's nice when women take us out for dinner too, you know? But paying into it by doing nice things for each other, making sure you wash the dishes, making sure you don't make the bathroom wet when you're showering. Yes, I'm making this very much what I'm meant to do. But all of that is paying into the relationship. And then when you have an argument, you've got enough in that relationship bank account that you're still very much in positive. But if that's too low, then you're in trouble. Your dog is the same. You're always scolding your dog, if you're always yanking on the leash with your dog, if you're just not very nice to your dog in general, your dog is not going to see you as a high value person and thus no longer the leader. The only time you ever see dogs doing behavior that could be argued, oh, the dog is trying to assert dominance, is if a human being is such a terrible leader that this animal who has evolved with human beings for 40,000 years, this animal now decides there is no leader in this group. Do I need to step up? 40,000 years of evolution telling this animal to follow, not to lead. If your dog is trying to try and be the leader, you're doing something terribly wrong. And a lot of the time, it's a lot of this positive punishment. And the reason I'm talking about this now is the slow feed, because this is a great example of it. You sleep again, mate. So slow feeds, Jake, you just put the camera down so people can see this online. You go down to their level. You start off by showing the value. Now you start off by showing value, then eventually you cover the value up, then eventually you don't use anything. But you've got to build this up slowly. So you show the value. Again, Aramis is probably just going to wait, but hopefully if you're excited, you won't, so we can show this. Start up high, and we slowly go down. Positive reward. He's not reacting. He's staying fairly calm. He's going to be getting the treat very soon if he stays like this. So I'm going to tease him a little bit just so he gets it. So he goes to take it. Negative punishment. Okay. And he's doing good. And then we do this. Shh. Okay. Simple exercise. All we did there was he was calm and nice and focused. It was moving far, it was moving closer. When he started to try and take it, or if they start acting out, negative punishment, it goes away. Something good is leaving. When he does it right and he's actually calm, we mark that behavior with a shush. That means that once you have proofed this, proofing means once you have got this to a real life stage, when you tell your dog to shush, they will not think it means be quiet. They will think it means calm down and relax, which is way, way more impactful than telling your dog to be quiet. To tell your dog to, well, I did this once with one dog, one of my dogs. I'd never show a client to do this after having done this myself. A lot of people teach their dogs to be quiet by teaching their dogs how to bark and then teaching them to be quiet. But you're only dealing with the actual action. You're not dealing with the emotions that underlie the action. So it meant that when I taught him to bark, he barked at me nonstop for like a week because he thought that's what I wanted. You know? So we've got to be aware that if we tackle behavior more than actions, it makes much more sense. And place and boundary. Now, I don't actually have a boundary for Aramis, but what you see him doing right now is very, very similar. You'll notice that he's off leash. When I've told him to just be down with me, he settles down at my feet and he just stays. That is boundary. It's really useful in a vet surgery. This is more people that you get in the waiting room in a vet surgery than ever. And it means that you don't need to continuously give them cues. You don't continuously need to say, stay where you are. You don't continuously need to say, oh, good boy, good boy, good boy. He knows that when you've asked him to settle, it means my parent is keeping me safe. I don't need to react. So for those of you that were here early, you might have noticed Aramis had a wee growl over there. The reason for that was I wasn't paying attention. He did nothing wrong. I was busy trying to set up all of the tech, so I was not being my dog's protector. So he was like, well, I need to tell Dad that I need help, because all my boys have been taught very, very firmly, you do not need to protect yourself. Because Aramis is the smallest dog in my household. So, yeah, he's the smallest. If Athos, who used to be dog reactive, decides to protect himself, I end up having to spend a lot of money on other people's vet bills, or worse. Now, just for a little plug, if you want to know more about Athos's story and how bad it got and why I ended up quitting my career in oil and gas to do this full time, we do have a podcast, and the first episode is us talking about Athos. So some people have found it very interesting and very illuminating to how they can also help their dogs, because we go into it. And Jay basically grills me about some of the things that I didn't actually feel comfortable with sharing, but he kind of made me. Okay. So although I ran through these quickly, do you kind of understand what to do to try and teach the basics of this? And then understanding that you're going to think about triple D, the distraction, the distance, and the duration. That's how you proof it. Start off with low distractions, low distance. He really is smelling your girls. See, he got distracted. Low distraction, short distance, and a short duration. Okay. You'll notice this by the end of today. When we've been doing the handling, Aramis is not going to want to be handled anymore because we're going to be doing it longer than we should be. In the same way that if we were to go to school and we had like a triple, what do you call the sections, period. If you had a triple period of maths, unless you really loved maths, you're going to get super bored and switch off completely. So again, when we're doing training, it's going to be short little sections. Okay. Okay.
At home or?
Oh yeah, definitely. So start off at home, start off in your living room by yourself, windows, doors closed, so that there's very little distractions. And then when they get the actions correctly, open the front door. When they get the action correctly, open up the windows. And this will take days. It's not something that you do straight away. Each training session should only be 5 to 10 minutes. So you can do 2 or 3 a day, but you'd be doing like 1 in the morning, 1 in the afternoon, 1 in the evening. You wouldn't be doing like 20, 30 minutes in one go. You'll find very quickly that your dog will turn off. As you build up, it's going to be easier and you can do it for much longer. Okay, sorry, any questions of that before I go on to shaping? Okay, so all animals are food motivated. If you weren't food motivated, you'd be in hospital because we all need to eat. So then we ask ourselves the question, why is the dog not motivated by food to do something? Well, when Aramis came out of the car, he'd just thrown up with motion sickness. If I offered him a treat, would he have taken it? No, why not? He's not feeling well. If I brought you to Singapore Zoo and we stepped into the tiger enclosure and then offered you a crisp, do you take the crisp? No, because you're scared. So uncomfortable, scared. If, one Fraser, try and think of a clean example. Clean example, children makes it clean. If I take my daughter to the trampoline park or take her to the big soft play, the Amazonia place, Great World, and I sit there and I'm going, hey, Freya, would you like a cookie? No, not a chance in a million years. She's going to be like, there's too much stuff going on here. I'm going to go and run and play. So overexcitement, fear, or discomfort are the three main reasons for not accepting food. Now, there is a fourth, which can be just not hungry. But if it's just... so with dogs, dogs' taste buds aren't that great, but their smell is amazing, which is why sometimes you get the treats that smell really strong, but really got not much taste. And that's how they get made super cheap. They're not the ones you want to give your dog, but that's how they work. So yeah, you do get some of that. Dogs also sometimes just don't like certain foods. So you will be able to mix up and try and figure out which ones work. As a side note there, something that I wouldn't normally put in here. When you're doing food training with your dog, the only treats that I advise are just meat-based treats or like sweet potato-based treats or things like that. Don't use chocolate, or don't use any chocolate, but don't use like the fake chocolate biscuits that you see. You see the dog chocolate biscuits? Yeah. All food coloring, sugar, there's salt. It's not good for them. Even the dog biscuits, the bone-shaped ones, most of them are all nonsense. You know, that's when you get very overweight dogs when you're doing training. The concept that we use is the concept that one of my mentors uses, which is ditch the bowl. Use your dog's dinner. So if you feed your dog twice a day, start off by taking half of the volume of each. Feed them half of the amount you would in the morning. During the day, they've now got a full-size meal to use throughout the day. What if we feed our dog raw? I hear you cry out. What if they're eating wet food? Empty ketchup bottle, stuff the food in there blended, screw it on, they do something good, good boy. There's no excuse for not doing it. The ketchup bottle has the food in it, you squeeze the food out and the dog will just lick it up. So it makes it easy to feed the wet food, and it's a lot cleaner than scooping it out of your pocket. And big mushy pocket going on. Okay. Anything else on the training before we go? But it's difficult when you ask questions about training. We really could go on about that for hours, but it's just to give you a rough idea of what you could be working on for the vets. Okay, shaping. Shaping. Giving your dog food while you're training or trying to get them to calm down is not bribery unless you make it bribery. Okay, so what you're really doing in this situation, if you look at the vet here, just the vet's wanting to check the dog's heart rate with the stethoscope. The dog's like, nah, don't think so. And then we add in a cookie and the dog is now okay. That looks like bribery. But what's really happening here is you've got the trigger, which is the vet. The trigger is creating a cortisone spike, stress hormone. And the cookie is creating a dopamine bump. So we can offset that cortisone with a dopamine flush. And that's how it works. It's not bribery. It's not like me saying, I'll give you $100 if you do X, Y, or Z. It's actually using the brain chemistry to have a positive association to the situation. Now, with that in mind, you've also got to be aware of triple D. If the vet is already touching your dog and you offer them food, are they going to accept the food? So you're going to start off far away and bring them up. This is why I always say to people that have puppies, take your puppy to the vet for no reason. Just take them there, literally. And I know people are like, oh, that's a waste of money. Not really, you'll save a lot of stress. Book a vet appointment, go there, tell the vet there's nothing wrong. We just wanted to have our puppy be acclimatized to you and get to know you a little bit.
Most vets, they will tell you, like, for example, if the vet opens at 10, you can come at 9:30 when they're parking everything, and then you don't have to get an appointment. So you just get your dog accustomed to the area and the people in the vet.
Yeah, so for people online, basically what that was is some vets, the good vets, will let you turn up just before opening to hours so that you don't need to book an appointment and spend money. You can still do that socialization with the vet. But don't assume that vets are going to do that. Okay, right. So we know how shaping works. It's effectively manipulating brain chemistry by adding a positive stimulus. Okay. Now that's that science part over. We're going to talk about just giving treats now. But that's what we mean when we say giving a treat. Shaping. Does anybody here play a musical instrument? What do you play? Percussion. Okay. So let's say you've only just started and you have been taken to an orchestra and the timpani drums are sitting in front of you. We're playing Beethoven. You ready? Let's go. Is that going to work out? If you've only just started, there's no way. You're going to get totally overwhelmed. You're not going to know what to do. If we want, and we're going to use, because I'm going to show you muzzle shaping. We're going to use muzzle shaping as an example here. This here is them wearing the muzzle without any issues. The first one is seeing the muzzle, touching the muzzle, putting their nose in. A little bit more time. Straps, not strapping them together, just flapping them around. And then you might have connecting them on and off, on and off. Then you've got to have it on. Do some trainings with small time. Then functional practice. Then you're able to wear it properly. But if you try and jump these steps too quickly, your dog's going to get overwhelmed. And the problem is there, an orchestra situation is a very good example of that. If you mess up in an orchestra, it's really embarrassing because there's a lot of people there. If your dog messes up in front of you, the most important person in their life, they're not going to want to do it again because they feel that they've disappointed you. They don't feel embarrassment the same way we do. Dogs don't feel pride and shame. They've only got primary emotions. I'll not go down that rabbit hole, but it's very important. Another time would be good, but it's very important not to put human emotions onto your dogs because we start treating them unfairly and expecting too much from them. Okay, so shaping is building the knowledge and confidence to be handled, to be exposed, to interact with, or to perform a task that we desire them to. Understanding that there's no such thing as bad behavior in dogs or good behavior in dogs. There's just dog behavior that we deem acceptable or not acceptable. And that's important to understand that. Muzzle shaping. Okay. How do we get a dog having the muzzle from being angry to being a little bit suspicious to being cool as a cucumber? Well, we went through it just there. So we go through positive association and play. Now, this is going to be a bit strange and just cards on the table. I deliberately did not practice this. Aramis has not worn a muzzle in about 5 years. And I deliberately did this because I didn't want to make it easy and have you guys be like, oh, well, of course your dog did that because, you know, you practice it all the time. I don't. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is a positive association. Now, Aramis is not going to be too excited about this because he's not massively play driven. But the first part you can do is you literally just hold the muzzle and you've got a toy and you have a positive association. So as I say, Aramis will not get too overexcited. But if you've got a dog that's very play driven, you just have that in your hand and you're whipping the flirt all over the place. This is called a flirt, by the way. I wasn't trying to, get fresh. Yeah. Aramis. So You're just having a positive association by playing while you've got the muzzle. Now, let's say we've done that for a little bit. The other thing is I'm speeding this up so that I don't need to take a long time with it. But you've got positive association there. Then we go on to counter conditioning, visual and physical. This is when we just have him be aware of the muzzle. Now you can do things like, I do have the right treat in here. Things like this. Oh yeah, you like these ones, don't you? You like these ones. So if you've just got strips like this,
Got his favorite.
and I just put it into the muzzle like that, so that muzzle turns out being like a puzzle toy. Your dog's fairly unlikely to start being really upset at their puzzle toy when you bring it close to them. The muzzle should not be a punishment. The muzzle should never be something that your dog doesn't want. You want them to have positive association to it. I'm sorry, mate, I'm really not very good at this. I should have practiced at least doing this part, maybe. So even things like this, and then put that down. Now Aramis is using that as a puzzle toy. He's got a positive association to it. Go on. Blackjack. Come on. So we're just getting him involved in that. So he's got to start eating from the muzzle. He's got to figure it out. He's got to, I made that too difficult. Lazy boy. There you go. So it's all just about positive association to the muzzle, making them be okay with it as an item. Don't even worry about wearing it right now. This is just about getting them to be okay with it. Oh, who have we got there? Okay, so let's say for argument's sake, he's done that, he's spent some time with it. When you're at home and you pack that full of food and just leave it with your dog will take their time and get used to it. Keep an eye on them. Some dogs will try and destroy the muzzle because they'll think it's a toy. Just keep an eye on it. There's no reason for you just to have a destroyed muzzle. If that happens, it's because you're not paying attention. That's literally the only reason. You know, the same way when people say, "Oh, my puppy destroyed my sofa," we weren't paying attention. You know, a dog that's inclined to get bored and destroy things, or even separation anxiety, shouldn't have access to those things when you're doing it. It's not fair on the dog. Okay, so we've done that part. Now we're going to do counter conditioning. Counter conditioning is literally just seeing a stimulus and matching it with the dopamine response of getting a treat. So start off super simple. Good. Just touching. Nothing fancy. Aramis. Good. And you want your dog to be this treat focused. You don't want your dog to be so about them. If your dog's not so treat motivated, that's okay. There's some people like, "Oh no, they're only looking at the treats." Good. That's what you want. Good boy. Okay, so somebody's remembering something from last time, because that's not this step, that's the next step. Once we're ready for that step, that's when we start feeding through the muzzle. So I prefer basket built muzzles because they're more comfortable on the dog. However, it does give them a little bit more of an opportunity to nip if they're very nippy. Contrary to what might look like, the cloth muzzles are a lot more uncomfortable than these ones. Okay? They're a lot more restrictive. So imagine somebody forcing your jaw closed. With this, at least, you're just looking like Hannibal Lecter. So just hold it like this and hold the muzzle like that. So he's got to go into the muzzle to get it. Aramis, we're not finished, mate. So you just do that. First of all, you just let them take it, and then you increase the time. So you slowly but surely make them fight for it a little bit more. If your dog has low patience, take your time with this, and I'd even recommend getting some patience building games. So just going to make this harder for him. So now I'm just not letting him take it straight away. So now he's got to have his face in there for a lot longer. Now you build up nice slow increments. As much as I've not done this for a while with Aramis, he has had this done before. Okay, so he's just getting little bits of this. I'm not letting him take it straight away. And then when he's ready, he's got it. Now there's no food in there and he's still going in to check. That's the sort of stage you want. Okay, now what we just did there It's what every YouTube on muzzle shaping shows you. So we've shaped the muzzle area. That's what we're just doing there. Now we're going to be shaping the straps. For some reason, every YouTube video you'll ever watch, not everyone, but a lot of the YouTube videos you ever watch will show the muzzle actually being shaped. Never do anything with the straps. So that's why everybody's always like, oh, the dog can put their nose in the muzzle, but every time I use the straps, they get freaked out. That's a very important aspect. And it's not that different. All you're doing is the same thing, hold it in there. So they've got to really fight for it. And you just, as they're in like that, you just bring the straps around like that. Good boy, on you go. So you see that was a little bit more strange for him. So same again, you don't go anything too far right now. He now knows that there's an extra bit there. And when you're ready, you just do things like this. Good boy, you saw his face there? So he's kind of like, what is that? But it's still okay because we're giving him the positive association to it. So when you're doing it, just be very calm with your dog. Don't baby your dog. Don't force your dog, of course. But a lot of people baby their dog. When you're introducing something uncomfortable, remember, babying doesn't help. If we were like, and I use this example because it's a very real example. If we were walking through a park and you were with me and we saw a small group of Abangs down on the path, and you turn to me and you say, Fraser, I don't feel that comfortable walking past these guys. Maybe not you, you'll be fine. But a lot of people would be like, Fraser, I'm not comfortable, so I don't want to walk past these guys. If I was like, shut up, you're fine, you'd be like, oh, that's not okay. That's using too harsh. That's not going to make you feel safe. In fact, it's going to make you feel more scared. But on the flip side, if I was like, hey, don't you worry about it, you're such a good girl, such a good boy. Nobody's better than you. You're the bestest in the whole wide world. That's not going to make you feel safe. In fact, you'd be like, creepy big bugger. But that's what we do to our dogs. Hey, it's okay, Fluffy, don't worry. The big nasty man's not going to hurt you. That's not helping your dog. Your dog's like, I don't understand why you're doing that. This is not the time. There's a time and a place to baby your dog, but that's not it. So you notice when I'm doing this with Armis, I'm not talking to him too much. I'm letting him get on with it. He knows that I'm there, calm and confident, and he knows that he's being rewarded, and I can give him a couple of pats. And you hear me saying good boy every now and then, but it's not over the top because it doesn't work that way. In fact, it can counteract it. So let's do more of the straps. Come back down. Armis, you want more? He's like, I don't actually want the muzzle on, but so when we're doing the straps, and I have it going in again, I'm just going to do this again. And now his eyes are not doing that because he's now saying, this is the second time we're doing this. That's not really a problem. And now he's at the strap there and he doesn't seem that bothered by it anymore at all. Now, as I say, Armis has been muzzle trained before, so it's not going to be this quick. But you can see the ideas of it, and that's why I did it with him now. I was going to bring my youngest Porthos, but I muzzle train him quite regularly because he's very excitable. So yeah, it wouldn't really be a very good example. So I'm going to do the same thing again. Now I'm doing this. I'm not connecting it yet. I'm just doing this. What I am going to do is let go, and then wait, and then remove. Okay? So we're taking this step by step, very, very slowly. I'm positive that camera's not on me, Jay. Not paying attention. So I was positive the camera wasn't on me there. Oh, okay. So once we're at that stage, we're now going to then strap it up. So here, as he's eating, and I'm just going to hold it and I'm going to give him a second piece. All I'm going to do that. Now, I'm not going to take too long on this because he's not going to enjoy it. And the moment this comes off, good boy. He gets affirmation and a treat. Now, you'll notice that Armis is reacting before I give him the treat. That's something called contra freeloading, effectively getting the dopamine rush without needing to use the treat. That would take out a bit to explain. I do believe there's either a video or an article on the website where I explain that. So if you're interested, you can go and take a look at that. But you okay? You don't need to explore me. So we just build up and build up and build up till we get to the stage where we're able to put it on and then actually do things. So Aris, give it to him. You're going to take your time a lot more than I do here. So now the muzzle, give him another treat. This strap here. Another treat. So at this stage, you would then take that off again. Aramis. Hey, buddy, I know. Come on, sit. Good. So if they're able to follow some basic instructions, that's when you know that they're a little bit more okay with it. Aramis, boy, sit. Good lad. Don't worry, we're not doing anything with you. Then from there, you'll put it on at the beginning of a walk, let him have about 5 minutes with it on a walk, and start doing everyday practical things. But, and this is the big thing that a lot of people get wrong when they're muzzling dogs, your dog should only be muzzled for about 15 to 20 minutes maximum at a time. Okay? Doesn't matter if your dog's aggressive or not. If your dog has a horrible association to it, that will be very, very dangerous. These things don't stop dogs from hurting you. Well, both me and Dr. Esther have been bitten by dogs with the muzzle on. Actually, me and Dr. Esther were bitten by the same dog on the same day with a muzzle on. Okay? Now, this dog was a rescue case. We were trying to get the dog out of an area where they shouldn't have been. The dog had never had real human contact. It was a very sad situation. And it was just nips. The muzzles did protect us from a proper bite. But just be aware of that when you're using muzzles. But Fraser, muzzles are bad. Muzzles have a bad connotation. I don't want to use a muzzle on my dog. If your dog breaks their leg, I don't care if your dog is the most gentle dog in the world. The moment the vet grabs the leg to see where the break is or tries to do anything with it, the dog is going to go for them. Okay? Doesn't matter who your dog is or what's going on. Muzzle training is a very important fact. We all need to do it for dogs. And I actually advise everybody to do it when they're puppies, or if you haven't, start doing it now. Okay? But most importantly, you get the concept of what shaping is. Yeah? So this means that the muzzle is just one component of the tools that are used here. When we are using other things, sorry mate, didn't mean to disturb you. Proof and walking, that's what we just went by. Proofing and practical use, so we start taking them to places. And then we get the gold cup of being able to get it done. Right. You want to?
Yep.
Good. If Jay's fixed the video, it will also be uploaded. It will be uploaded. Okay, socialization, shaping, and handling and safety. These lists seem large. Don't be overwhelmed. Not every dog needs every single one. Okay, these are the things that I would generally say to somebody with a puppy. Run through these, try and get your dog to be a lot more confident with all of these items. Car rides. Car rides is at the very top because, well, most of the time, unless you're lucky enough to live really close to the vet, you'll have to either take a grab or drive with your dog in there. A lot of dogs are nervous about car rides. Shape the car ride the same way we did the muzzle. Introduce to the car. Introduce to the car with the engine running. Introduce to the car with the door open. Shape the movements of getting into the car. In, out, in, out, in, out. Make this a fun, positive experience until you're able to get them in the car, start the car, move an inch, come out again. And build that up slowly with small journeys around the block, things like that. Yes, if you don't have a car and you're using a grab, this is challenging, but it's not impossible, okay? Where there is something you need to do, there is always a solution. If you catch yourself making an excuse for every single thing somebody advises, stop, take a moment, and realize that you're just finding a problem for every solution. And that's not helpful for you or your dog. It's also not helpful for anybody in life in general, to be honest. Traffic, same thing. If you're having to walk to the vets, you're walking past a busy road, some dogs get scared, it's worth making sure that you have shaped the ability to deal with traffic. Vet clinic area, the clinic itself, same sort of aspects as we spoke about with the car. The ability to wait. This is something that a lot of people find challenging with their dogs. Now, I am not saying this because it's something I like to do, but genuinely taking your dog for a beer is very useful. All husbands should be able to do that for the dog training. Just saying. I mean, I'm sure my wife's going to watch this and give me a hard time for that. But jokes aside, the reason Aramis can do this is because it's been practiced. Aramis knows that when I'm standing talking, or when I'm sitting talking, or when I'm, just chilling out, it's time for him just to chill out as well. That's quite an important fact to do. Fairly easy to teach. Take them to a cafe, sit down, have a quick drink, and leave. And just build up the time very, very slowly. If your dog gets too overwhelmed by that, shape the cafe before you start doing that. Or even if your dog still can't even get to that stage, sit down and watch TV, pop a leash on them, have them settle at your feet. Wait for 5 minutes, release them. Half an hour later, call them back and do the same thing. Teach them that chilling out beside you is a good thing. Your vet. Now, as much as we love to think that all vets are beloved by all animals, this is not always the case. I would love to think that every dog loves me. A lot of dogs do love me, but not every single dog. So you've got to be able to shape people as well in the same way. That's actually a little bit easier because you can ask a person to do things. The ones you've got to be careful of are people that say things like, "Don't worry, I'm good with dogs." They're the ones you've got to worry about. They're the ones that have watched back-to-back episodes of Caesar Milan and think they're now the dog whisperer. But without calling anybody out, nothing to do with that show, I'm just going to say that if a dog trainer gets bitten repeatedly by the same dog on one episode, it's probably not a good thing. Nothing to do with that. Just like. So, your vet, nurses, support staff, other dogs. Remembering what I said earlier, your dog does not need to be a social butterfly. They just need to be able to cope being in the same area with other dogs. You can't force your dog to be very playful with other dogs, things like that. Some of them just aren't. I had to convince Jay to even turn up because he doesn't like people. I'm joking.
That's true.
So then we get on to things that are actual real things. Now, I was kind of hoping they wouldn't have moved it. Normally there's a scale here. Actually, probably a good thing there isn't because I'd be standing on it and you guys would be like, whoa. But the weighing scale is very important. So when we're talking about the training aspect, when I'm talking about going to bed, like go to your place, go to bed, go to place, that's really good because it means that you can send them up onto the scale. Because if you can't do that, then you've got to pick your dog up, then you've got to put them onto the scale, then you've got to try and do the touchy and not grab thing so you get the weight. How stressful is that for your dog? You've not even entered the actual area where they're going to do the examination. The physical examination itself. Now, I'm going to take a little bit of time here just to show you what we're going to do. Now, Aramis, I know you're not going to enjoy this part. Sorry, in fact, I'm going to take the leash off so that you don't get hit in the face with it. Boy, this is where middle comes so. Okay, Aramis, middle. This is a very, very useful place for this, okay? Because when you're having to check things like their nose, so you cup your hand like this, you have it under their chin. You don't grab them. That's not a very nice place for them to be. So you have them like this. It means you're able to check their nose. You're always very delicate, but you should be able to actually do it. Now you've got to be able to do this so that they're used to doing it, because having a new person doing it is going to be much tougher. In the same aspect, you use the same with the eyes, making sure you can check the eyes. Now, when you're doing this for the first time, you will want to be doing it, treat, doing it, treat, doing it, treat, so that they don't feel overwhelmed. Same with the teeth. Now, with the mouth, this is a little bit different. You've got to be able to lift the lips so you can have a good look at the teeth. And you've also got to be able to open the mouth as well. Now, if your dog is very, very against you opening their mouth, you've got to use a horrible tool, which was originally used in dogfighting. And it's basically like a plastic butter knife that they slide in and separate the jaws. Now, We don't want to be doing that. So this is why this is a very good idea to be showing them. With that said, if you're in a dog park, it's not a bad idea to have one on you. Because if a dog latches onto your dog or your dog latches onto another dog and you can't separate them, pulling the back legs like they say online is not what you do. Spraying water on them does not work. You know, spraying water on them will take them a second away and then they'll get back into it. You need to actually separate. The best example of this is teenage boys. What do you have to do to stop teenage boys from fighting in a schoolyard? Separate them. So if you can catch them before they actually engage, that's the way to do it. If they're already engaged, you've got to be able to separate them without pulling them away at the back. So you separate them sideways. Dog's teeth. We were just looking at dog's teeth. Armis, come on, buddy. Up. Okay. Open. Sorry, open. What shape are these? These are pointing back. Good boy. Good lad. So that's not very comfortable for dogs, but that's what you need to be able to do. And I wasn't using any force there. I actually just did that. So to teach that, touch the teeth, open, they go, and you reward. Just slowly but surely open and open and open. Those teeth were pointing backwards. So if they've latched onto a person or another dog and you pull them back, that's going to dig in. It's an evolutionary design so the prey doesn't get away. Okay, so I showed you nose, teeth, open mouth, eyes, ears. It's the same aspect as well. The reason I'm not lingering on these points is because I lingered on the muzzle. The concepts are the same. Break down the actions. Touch the ear, reward. Fold the ear, reward. Put your finger on the outside.
Sorry, just to add on as well, when you do all these things, you can add cues to them as well. So if they're going to touch their eyes, say eyes, and you want like that. But in the future, like with my girls as well, I can tell them brush your teeth, then they will come and they show them.
That's exactly why I'm asking you to come for bath time with my daughter. It's a nightmare.
But it was for everything. But our dog's paw, I can teach like every other paw.
Yeah. Do you know, and that's a very good point. The reason I didn't think to say that is because, to be honest, although I do it for open, that's really one of the few I do it with. There's a great video where Jay's showing how to do like stress-free showering and things like that. And he literally says, wash your face, and his dog puts her face under the shower. You know, so like, you can get to that sort of level if you do that kind of thing really well. And to be honest, Jay does that better than I do. Okay, so same for the ears, same with the paws. If you notice this middle position that we had him in, it's so useful for all that front end. Now we have to move on to other areas of this, such as temperature checks. How does a dog get their temperature checked? Goes in the tough way. You're gonna make me say it? Yeah. Goes up the butt. So I was having to stop myself from just shouting out the next part of that we can't. So it's like the problem of being an ex-rugby player, you. So temperature checks. This is where it sounds dodgy, but you need your dog to be okay with their tail being lifted up, and don't start sticking things in your dog's ass. Okay, but you need to have them be okay with it being touched and cleaned and things like that. One thing that we do in our house, and I advise other people to do as well, that really is helpful, when you come in for a walk, get a wet wipe and just give that area a clean. It means you're less likely to get poop on your carpet, but it also means that they're less triggered when somebody starts to do it in a clinic environment. Injections. Now, injections I will show you, because this is slightly different. You just pack in one of those boxes. Are these for sale or are these being given out? I'm still going to use it. We'll just have to, if they make me, I'll just buy it. Okay, so for injections, I'm just going to use a syringe. Don't worry, I will buy this off of them. I'm not just things. Now, again, with the muzzle, you show it, you reward, you show it, you reward, you show it, you reward. Aramis has never actually needed this one to be done because the poor lad's had so many center point injections that he's not really that bothered by it. In fact, he's actually trying to come into middle for it. But effectively, you need them to be okay with the syringe as an item. And then you bring them back into middle. That's not middle, Aramis middle. Good boy. Okay, so when they're in the middle, you know that you've got to pinch the back of the skin. So you do this, and for dogs that are doing well at this, you can actually show them the syringe and then pinch the back of the skin. But it's just there in the neck. Don't go pinching random points, okay? Just back there, reward, back there, reward. Now, the reason I'm not doing that with Aramis right now is I have a lot of treats doing the muzzle, and he's already cool with this. But eventually you get to the point where you're doing pinch, touch, good. Pinch, touch, good. Pinch, touch, good. Then you get to the point where you're actually going to pretend you're doing it. Good. You just get them used to the idea of doing it. You might say to yourself, yeah, but Fraser, there's no needle on that. When the needles are fresh, which they should always be, you barely feel it going in that part of the skin. So we always think about needles going in on our arms and things like that. And if you've ever had an injection on the, well, no, not everybody here does, but the little flabby bit you get there, you barely feel it, or your butt, you barely feel it. And that's the same sort of idea of that part of the neck, which is also why you need to be a little bit more controlled when it comes to taking blood, which is the next part. So you've done the syringe, that's an important factor. Some dogs are going to be very cool about this. They're very chilled, and you can do it just like this. So just use where Aramis is now, if you just don't mind following that. You just shape them so that you can hold their arm. It's a bit of dirt. Yeah. So you should be able to hold their arm and just do things like this. Okay, okay. Sorry, mate. Aramis. Okay. Stop. Lie down. Good boy. So we're just getting him used to having his arm handled. And then you're going to find the vein and just touch it, things like that, and hold it in position. A lot of the time you'll be able to ask your vet if you can be the one to hold them. If you don't know what you're doing, then the nurse will help as well. But that's very rare for a dog to be that cool about doing it. And if they're not, middle happens again. You do the same thing, have them in middle. Sorry, mate. Aramis, how did you get the hiccups? Do you have any treats? Aramis, come on, mate. Hey, you had enough? No, yes. Okay, Aramis, come on. Middle. Good boy. So this is where you just take the paw and you've got to hold it outright. Okay? And just be aware, I should have cleaned your legs after we went the walk this morning. And then it's the same with nails. Have them be okay with you handling their nails and pretend that you're clipping them, you know, things like that. So that's all this shaping aspect is a slow process. You build your way up to it. You don't just go for it. The same way that we condition the syringe with visual and touch, nail clippers are the same. Hairbrushes are the same. Some dogs get super freaked out by hairbrushes. You've got to do the same thing with everything that your dog gets scared. Dogs only see fear and safe. We do not get to choose which things go in which area. All we can do is encourage. Okay? Topical treatments, same sort of idea. It's okay, mate. You can chill out now. That is talking about the vet visits in particular. So did all of that make sense to everybody? I know it's a lot of information to try and rush out in one go, but I didn't want to just give you like a small taster and then you guys to leave and be like, well, what about blood tests? What about this? What about that? And if you need more information, please don't hesitate to reach out to us as well, or to Paws as well. Okay, handling and touching. So we kind of went through all of this as well, but you've got inside and outside of the ears, mouth area, eye area, paws and nails, pinching skin, tail, nose. So the tail's an interesting one. This is also a big part that we do for, a big part that we do for toddlers, preparing dogs for babies. There's a big thing that a lot of people neglect. And that's when you see on Facebook, oh, we've got to get rid of our dog because we had a baby. Or our baby's got allergies. 9 times out of 10, the baby doesn't have allergies. They just haven't trained their dog. Okay, so sort of grabbing and pinching things like that, you've got to make sure they're okay with that so they don't get completely freaked out. With that said, there's also a lot more management that goes into that as well. You don't allow your kids to do that. And if you'd asked me 4 years ago, I would have said, no, of course you can stop kids from doing that. You should be in complete control at all times. Now, I will say, you can't be in complete control at all times. It's impossible. You will drive yourself up the wall. So you've got to just do your best for everybody in the house. Okay? Wiping face and body, towels, cleaning, collars, leashes, harnesses, all of these things should be shaped. A lot of time people slam the harness onto their dog and then wonder why their dogs don't like going out on walks. It's got nothing to do with outside. They don't like having the collar or harness on. Leash pressure guidance. This is a very, very impactful one. It's very easy. All you do for that, and this is the one that stops your dog pulling on leash, just for its of interest. So we have leash. You don't always need to have it clipped onto your belt. I have 3 dogs, which is why I use this. Okay, but effectively, every time the dog feels pressure on the leash, he comes towards you, he gets a treat. You shape that, you use triple D to build that up, and you get to the stage where when you start walking away, he'll start to follow wherever you go. So you never actually get pulling because your dog says, following you, he sees following you as a positive. You really can shape that to quite a high level till you're in a dog park, and you can do it in a dog park, all the other dogs are running around off leash, and you'll be able to do that. But to get to that level, you've got to think, what are the levels between doing that in the living room and doing that in a dog park? And fill those steps in. And if one step's too much after the other one, find another step. There's going to be one between that. Okay. So leash pressure guidance is very, very helpful. We use that in the vets, obviously, because it's good to keep your dog safe. But I would say that's a life skill that should always be taught. Washing, grooming, and clipping. I will not go into this at length. Instead, I will say, watch Jay's video. It's very, very good. With that said, Jay's not a professional groomer. So there's groomers out there that will have a lot better tips and tricks than us. But we talk about it from a behavioral standpoint instead. Okay, this next part I'm not going to linger too heavily on because there is a lot in it, but it's just to show you. Please feel free to go and find the video and have a look at it at your own pace. People checklist. This is something that we try to do with puppies or with dogs that we've just adopted or taken over. You want to be able to, women, men, different ethnicities, different voices, hairstyles, facial features, elderly, young, wheelchairs, crutches, cones, you name it. Everything that you can think of, you've got to be aware of. And I'm not saying go and find these people. How do I find a construction worker wearing a dress, a high-vis vest, and a big beard? You know, that's not realistic. Some of these lists have crazy stuff like that on it. But what you really got to do is when you're walking your dog and you see somebody that's different from what your dog is used to, reward them just for looking. They'll say, oh, that person with a big ginger afro is actually not terrible. I don't know why Carrot Top would be in Singapore, but there you go. So that's how we do these things. Just catch it as we're living. This is what we call 24/7 training. You've just got to be aware when you're walking. A lot of people say, oh, but then how do I check Facebook? Don't be on your phone when you're walking. The number of times that you see people getting into a lot of trouble that way is unbelievable. Okay, so you can see that a lot of this is just people of different sizes, shapes, colors, creeds. You know, I guess the dogs don't really care too much about creeds and religion, but you know, it's a good idea just to have different, even cultural behavior around your dogs as well. Okay, and I shouldn't need to say this, be respectful. Okay, do not say, oh, my dog's not met anybody with a tudong on. Can you just come over here and pet my dog? You know, that's not fair because some of them do not like that to happen. They've got their beliefs in that. So we just need to be careful and respect that at all times. And also be aware that some people are just terrified of dogs. You've got that as well. I once had a grab delivery guy. We opened up the door and the 3 dogs were sitting there. He dropped the food and ran down the hall. Dude was bigger than me. And I was kind of like, oh, okay then, mate. Sorry. The dogs weren't doing anything. So people are of vast differences. Always make sure you're rewarding. I don't care if your dog's 9 years old and you've just not done this. Start. It's not that difficult. Okay. Animals, dogs of all different sizes, shapes, breeds, behaviors, things like that. Again, be respectful. If somebody's got a really reactive dog and the dog's lunging and barking, please don't be that person that sits there giving your dogs treats because they're watching. That's not fair on the other person. Get out of there. You know, or they should be getting out of there, really. Now, I know in Singapore it's a little bit strange, but depending on where you live, you want to be looking at cats, horses. Is there even any cattle in Singapore? I'm not even sure. But depending where you live, you want to be getting them associating other animals with positivity. Monitor lizards, otters, things like that. You don't want your dogs to be completely darting at them. Jay's smiling because Porthos loves a good chase for a monitor lizard. So his leave it had to be taught to a very high level. Which comes back to, even if you're trying to do the behavioral aspect of having them not react to things, make sure you've got the training aspect so that if it's not quite there yet, you're able to keep him safe or her safe. Okay, surface type. This is one that everybody always forgets. Concrete is different from grass, which is different from astroturf, which is different from grating, which is different from wood. Dogs get freaked out by this. Some do, some don't. If your dog does, make sure you shape these elements as well. So that's shaping of different aspects. The reason I rushed through that is just because, as you can see, there's a lot there. But with the concept that we went through with the muzzle, you can probably figure out how to get through that. And again, if you can't, reach out. The actual vet visit. Okay. Before you turn up to the vet, make sure you have good communication. If your dog has zero issues and your dog's cool with all vets, then you need to say less. If your dog is going to need to require sedation being sent to your house beforehand, you probably need to have a talk with your vet first. You know, and a lot of people might just be like, "Oh wow, that sounds extreme." I've got a few clients that I've actually got to be booked in at the same time as the vet visit so that I'm with them when they come to the vet. Some dogs are in a really extreme situation and they can be helped. You know, I've said it once, I've said it 1,000 times. In the past, yes, things like behavioral euthanasia was having to be an option. With the amount of knowledge and the science that we've got now in cognitive ability and psychology in dogs, that's a thing of the past. We don't need to do that anymore. All dogs can be rehabilitated out of any behavioral state. You know, very rarely is there a dog with an actual physical psychological problem, unless it's like brain trauma and things like that. So it's less inclined to happen in animals than it is in people. You know, not we're down that rabbit hole, but effectively it's because we protect each other a lot closer than other animals do. So evolutionary, there's more mental changes in humans than there is in other animals. Okay, stress levels, not just your dog's stress levels, but yours as well. If you've had an absolute nightmare day at work and you're expecting your dog to be calm while you're cussing out your co-workers in your head, that's going to be an issue. Okay? Logistics. Do not just say, we'll just grab and it'll be okay. Like, if your dog's cool with that, go for that. If your dog's not, book a pet taxi. Make sure you trust the person that's driving. Make sure that you've got them in plenty of time. Don't turn up late and rush into the clinic and expect your dog to be okay. If you've got a dog that's reactive or really doesn't like the vets, you've got to be aware of these things. Don't make the mistake of trying to rush. Okay? Tools. When you bring your dog to the vets, sometimes you turn up thinking it's going to be a half-hour visit, and then other times you're going to turn up and you're going to be here for 2 hours, Aramis. I know, mate. Sorry. So you need to make sure you've got access to water. You've got some food. You've got the correct equipment. So do you need a muzzle? So, and for those of us that have Singapore specials, or if you've got scheduled dogs, there's some cases where you need to have the muzzle. It doesn't matter if you've got a Doberman who's just a big goofball, which a lot of Dobermans are, by the way. They still need to have a muzzle on. It doesn't matter if that dog spends their time cuddling babies. In public, you need to have that muzzle on. So you need to make sure that you've shaped that and you've got that with you. Calming treats. If you've got a dog that gets upset, calming treats aren't a bad thing either. I try not to go down the medication route unless it's completely necessary, but you've got a lot of herbal or supplemental things that can do the trick as well. And then, of course, do you need a harness or is a collar sufficient? If your dog is still pulling on the leash, highly recommend that you have a dual clip harness and learn how to use it. Having a harness without knowing how to use it, you've got a sled dog. Okay? The reason that anybody can use a choke chain to stop the dog from pulling is because it creates pain on the dog's neck regardless. Anybody that tells you that it doesn't hurt the dog doesn't understand how it's supposed to work. Okay? With a dual clip harness, you're using ergonomics. So if they try to pull, it actually turns their shoulders. It's a lot more effective. Okay. And if anybody wants to argue that point, please feel free, because it's something I've had a lot of time to do with. Trust and advocacy. Okay. This is a tough one for a lot of people, because if your dog is acting like a nutter, you still need to be your dog's best advocate. In the same way, I would like to think my wife would always be my best advocate. Even if I get drunk, I'm not drinking this year at all, so I can use that example. But if I get drunk and do something stupid or start an argument, my wife is still going to be in my corner. She might not agree with what I'm saying. She might be trying to get me to leave, but she's not going to turn against me. Same with her dogs. If your dog is trying to attack every single dog you see, you're still in your dog's corner. Doesn't matter. It's your dog. It's like, I'm sure it's the same over here, although I've been here for 18 years, so I know that it's the same here as well. But back home, we've got a friend. And excuse the language here, but he's an asshole. But he's our asshole. You know, so we always make sure that he's okay, even though he's normally the one at fault. But we make sure he's safe. Okay? Same with our dogs. You've got to be the best advocate. Now, there's not really any staff here for me to hear this, but what I will say is this clinic is quite good at that. There's a lot of clinics that are very good at this. But if you know that your dog is better behaved when you are with them, request to be in the room with them. If the vet flat out refuses, ask why. I'm not saying start an argument with the vet, be nice and calm, but you've got to think to yourself, why is that not allowed? Same with groomers. If you're not allowed to see the grooming process, why not? What are they doing? You know, trainers. Deep breaths, deep breaths. If you are taking your dog for training and the trainer doesn't let you take part, WTF? Honestly, how can you possibly keep your dog under control if you've not been part of the process? It's mental. Okay? Now, that's not to say that board and train is completely useless. For behavioral rehabilitation, board and train is a real thing, but it needs to be somebody that you trust. Okay? All of these things come to the fact that, yes, there are some situations where you do not need to be in the room with your animal. There's certain animals, certain dogs or cats that will be better when you're not there with them. But the vet would need to explain that to you, or the person will need to explain that to you fully. And that doesn't count with training, by the way. Because if the dog's better behaved without you, it means that you need even more work with the trainer so that you know how to handle your own dog. I'm just about to finish. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Nice. And rest. Okay. Rest is paramount. Rest before you go to the vet and rest afterwards. Don't think, oh, you've had a hard day. You've been at the vet. It's been very stressful. We're going to go to a beach now. It's a terrible plan. Remember the stress bucket. You don't want to let your dog get over that threshold. And again, for you as well, if you've had a stressful time with your dog, make sure you rest as well. Okay. Now with that, that's it. Which is why I was saying that. I was telling you. Teasing, I'm teasing. Okay. Does anybody have any questions about any of that? Yep. Yeah. Sorry.
You are like doing the shaping for the mother. I have more than one dog in the house. Can I do it together, or do I have to do it alone?
You may need to do it alone. A lot of dogs, it depends on the dogs, obviously. But I do a lot of videos with my dogs to demonstrate. And much of the time, if I've not told my dogs to go somewhere else, you'll get a big black butt coming onto the screen. The same thing will happen. Guys, we're literally just finishing. So just hold on for like 30 seconds. Okay. Okay. So yeah, effectively, yes, separate them if you need to. If the dogs are coming up and bothering the work, then yeah, separate them. Okay. No worries. And if you have any questions that you didn't think of now that you want to ask later on, please just reach out to us.
Introduce a second dog to the
Okay.
especially if we have Singapore special.
Okay.
We are very
I'm not going to too much detail because that's a very big topic, but effectively you want to start off by doing peer-to-peer walking so that the dogs are used to each other's presence. Peer-to-peer walking also works quite well because you change the positions so the scent starts to get quite familiar. And then you do introductions in a neutral area, yeah. And then you'll let the dog that's already in the house be in the house, maybe in a different room when the other dog comes in. If they react very badly, you remove the situation. You're going to do this very delicately. Okay?
What if the second puppy is a puppy? Second puppy.
It's less dangerous.
Less threatening for the
Exactly. So most dogs give puppies what we call affectionately puppy license. So they have they kind of have a license to be awkward until they get to a certain age, and then that switches off. My boy Porthos was absolutely distraught when his puppy license ran out with Athos. But yeah, generally when you've got puppies, dogs are pretty good. Not all. I'll just show you Porthos when he was a pup.
Yours is also yeah. Are they all adopted together?
No, I staggered that. So we did it so that Athos was sorted out, and then we introduced the other ones.
The second dog that you adopted, is it a puppy or a dog?
He was slightly older. Well, he was the second dog.
Oh,
So there you go. That's Athos, the younger dog. That's Aramis. Porthos was the
does it
puppy.
look like that?
Yeah, he actually looks quite like a Shiba Inu, just like a large one. So that's Porthos in the dog park with an actual Shiba Inu. Yeah, I was a wee bit naughty on that day because the woman was like, "Oh my goodness, your Shiba Inu is so big," and I was like, "Oh yes, it is." Where did you get him? Breeder in Taiwan. He's very well trained. How did you do that? I said, "Oh, breeder must have done it." Yeah. Can I get the contacts? Oh. But yeah, generally you get puppy licenses and the same happens with children. Like small children, they get a kind of license when they're very, very small. So you can be aware of that, but don't take advantage of it. And then as they get bigger, you've got to make sure. So like right now, my daughter as a toddler, we can't allow, like she's very good with the dogs and the dogs are good with her, but we couldn't allow them to be alone in the same room. Even though my boys are well trained, behaviorally shaped, I trust that nothing's going to go wrong. You don't leave them alone. The same goes with a puppy. You don't leave a puppy alone in a room with a full adult dog. So if that puppy pushes the boundaries too far, the adult dog might snap at them, and a snap at a puppy or the snap at a young child can be a lot worse. And it's not the adult dog's fault. It's our fault for setting them up for failure. So with a second dog, there's a lot more steps than I sort of described with the peer-to-peer walking and into the house, but that's the rough guide. If you need help with that, there's people out there that can help with it. We can help with that as well. There's a lot of good trainers in Singapore that are good with that sort of thing, because that's not so much behavioural as it is socialization. Yeah. Okay. Anybody else? Okay, so please, if you have any questions or you want to learn more, feel free to get in touch with us via our website, Facebook, Instagram, and also have a listen to our podcast. It's new, so there's only 3 episodes at the moment. But effectively what we are doing with that is we're interviewing professionals or interviewing people who have had a pet that went through a difficult rehabilitative or training journey. And we're basically sharing a lot of information so that people can learn for free and hopefully be able to help their animals better. First session was Jay interviewing me about Athos. We're also doing mid-month sessions where it's just Jay and I talking about a topic. So if there's a topic that you want to talk about, like introducing another dog, that might be a good topic for one of them. Give the topic, Jay and I talk about it at length so that you can listen to the podcast as well. So please have a look at that and get in touch with us if you need anything at all from us. And that's it. Thank you very much, guys. You're welcome.